Hey, everybody. Hope you're all doing well, having a great week. Listen, I've been getting a lot of calls and questions on the phone recently about first meetings, how to structure them, uh, to make them successful, and how to become a first meeting master in the terms that I use. So I've had this tool that I've used, a workbook that I created a while back, and it's not something that Magellan offers as a tool, but it is something that I've used with advisors over the last several years of being in this business to help advisors kind of structure their process and diffuse what I call the selling landmines that can blow up on you three, meetings down the road that we maybe can get on the table here in the first meeting and really up your closing ratio as we go into the second and third appointment. So I want to take you guys through this workbook quick, show you how it works, kind of talk about the landmines that are involved here, how to diffuse them. It might not be something that you all want to use, or any of you want to use for that matter, but maybe there's pieces in here that you want to. If you want it at the end, you can just shoot me an email. I'll send you over the digital copy. I don't have it in print form, but you are certainly welcome to print this as well. So without further ado here, let me show you kind of how this works. So there's 2 pages here as a client profile, and many of the advisors that have used this with me in the past, they've given this to their prospects or clients in the lobby while they're waiting, to see you. So your assistant will greet them, offer them a drink and say, hey, while you're waiting for Mr. Advisor here, I'm going to ask you to fill out these just 2 pages here that we've separated out so that we can gather some information before the appointment. It's stuff that you don't really want to take to kind of waste the time. So in this case here, you're looking at client profile, just names, birth dates, it's anniversary, all the stuff that you might need to put in your CRM. Children's names, occupation. It gets a little bit more in depth here. Hey, some financial concerns, interests that you are, some of the reasons why you're there to see the advisor. And so we'll have them do, 1, no concern, 5, the most concerned. Just circle their answers. But really important here is their financial confidence ranking. You'll see I have a spot for both clients, husband and wife. Number 1 is things couldn't be worse. 10 meaning everything is perfect. Just a little insight here on these numbers. 8s, 9s, and 10s, when you receive pages that have 8s, 9s, and 10s, not motivated to move. Pretty good, happy. Doesn't matter really what we show them, they're pretty happy. So we're really going to want to push on those folks, right? 1s and 2s probably don't have any money for you to work with. So really our niche is 3s through 7s. But the real conversation kind of goes like this. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Klein, I see that you guys are an 8 out of 10 or a 9 out of 10. The interesting part is you don't need me. You guys are happy. Even if I put together the most amazing plan and help you solve some of the problems that you think you have, is there really any emotional drive to make a change? And that's what I'm trying to get at throughout the entire process. Number 1 landmine in the process is emotion. Do these clients have an emotional connection to making a change? If they don't, you will not make a sale no matter how good your plan is. They have to be emotionally driven to make that change. So that's the first one we're going to go through here. So the first thing that I do in any appointment process is review the agenda and with the clients live right there. And I've given you some checkpoints here to make sure that you keep track of all the things that you're indicating to them. Remember, this is your workbook. This is what you are filling out instead of a yellow paper or yellow pad or, whatever thing you have, an Excel document or something. This is your workbook to work through the clients with. So the first thing that I do is review the agenda. Hey, I have an agenda for the meeting today. What our job here today is to kind of get to know one another. Let's first of all get the elephant in the room out of the way. You're looking at me trying to figure out, can I trust this guy, right? And to be honest with you, I'm looking at you saying, I wonder if these folks are good clients for me, right? And that's the agenda for today. We're going to talk to get to know one another. I'm going to teach you a little bit about my process. You guys are going to give me, the concerns and the issues that you have and tell me a little bit about your situation. And then we're going to determine whether or not a second meeting is a good idea. All right, so I've allotted an hour for today's meeting. You'll see that's number 2 here. Allotted for a little time for today's meeting. It's 60 minutes. I'm going to be very respectful of your time. And that's what I do. When we're done with our time slot, I will stop us. If we didn't get to everything that we needed to get to, we'll schedule another appointment to do that. But want to be respectful of your time. My goal today, again, is to determine whether or not a second meeting is a good idea for us, right? We want to make sure that you guys are a good fit to work with our firm, that we're a good fit to work with you and your goals. And if a second meeting is a good idea and we think we can help one another, we're going to do that. My style, I tend to take a lot of notes. if you see me with my head down in this workbook here, it does not mean that I'm not listening to you, but it means that I'm taking notes, and that's just kind of the way that I work. So I want to make sure I get all the important information down. This is really important to tell a client, because sometimes you'll have somebody that thinks that you're not paying attention to them when you're writing things down or putting your head down, and they're talking to, maybe the top of your head for a second or something. That it's really important that they know that that's going to happen. If you put that on the table and they know, then you're good. Here's what I'm going to ask you, Mr. and Mrs. Klein. I'm asking that you be open and candid with me, because I will be the same with you. That is the way that I operate. Just continue to be open, candid. If you have questions, ask them, right? That's the segue into the next. Please ask as many questions as you want, because I will ask you a lot of questions. You're going to see me asking you a lot of questions, and I tend to ask more than you're probably used to. But please, if you're anything that I need to explain to you, please ask those questions of me. Everybody works at a different pace, so we're going to work at your pace. If for any reason you feel like things are moving too quickly or I'm moving too fast through different topics or anything, I want you to stop me and slow me down. If you need things to speed up because I'm not going fast enough for you, we can do the same at that point too. We're going to work at your pace. And then finally, our process is as follows. The first meeting, again, is just a discussion to determine whether or not we're a good fit to work with one another. In our second appointment, we deem that's a good idea. You're going to come in and we're going to start our design process. We'll have an analysis of your portfolio. We'll have a Social Security timing report, all the things that you would offer somebody in their second appointment from a design perspective. I'm going to give you the pros and the cons of each strategy that we discuss. Your job is to give me clear yeses and clear nos on those strategies so that we know that we can either leave them on the table or take them off the table. All right. If at any point in the process you need to think about it, anything that we're talking about, or you want to tell me, hey, I need to think about this a little bit longer, in my world, that is a clear no. And so we'll have to backtrack or part ways if we have to, but we'll backtrack and we'll re-explain, because that means that I didn't do a good enough job of explaining the pros and the cons of that strategy. At the end, in our third appointment, we're going to have a decision meeting, right? And we're going to talk about the full strategy and make a decision on whether or not we want to implement it. Do you see that any reason after 3 meetings we can't get to a point in the process where we can get a clear yes or a no on a plan? Mr. and Mrs. Klein, you asked them to answer that question. Again, we're saying that because we want to make sure that we eliminate the think about it. I'm putting that on the table because I know it's a landmine that could blow up on us in the future, right? If somebody says they think about it, it's a bad deal for a sale, right? So we tell them we don't do think about it. A think about it is a no. And so if you're going to think about it, tell me no. Or if you tell me think about it, I'm going to assume no, and that's where we're going to go from there. Very, very important. All right, so then we'll start with these questions. There are 15 of them in this process. I'll jump through them pretty quickly, but explain to you why they're important here. Number one, I see you have some financial concerns and some interests on your pages that you did in the lobby there. What would make this truly a great meeting for you? Nobody's ever been asked that question before, right? Most people just jump into their process. Tell me a little bit about what would make this a great meeting for you? Tell me why you're here, right? They're going to give you an answer. That first answer is probably going to be what I call IBS. That's intellectual bull, the leather word. That's going to be, a really big thing. Make sure you dig down a little bit as to the real reason why they're there. Now, you ranked yourself a financial confidence as a Mr. Client, you were this, and Mrs. Client, you're this. Here's the deal. Let's say there were 6, and they tell you that they're a 6. Hey, 6 is pretty good, right? I bet you have some amazing stories about how you got yourself to a 6, and you worked really hard to get there. And you should be proud of yourselves. But what I can tell you is that a 6 out of 10 is not a 10. So I can see there's probably some room for improvement. Do we agree? Yes. Okay. So suppose I could give you a magic wand today and you could wave it to your financial situation and it would get you to a 10. What would that look like? And let them tell you how they think they need to fix their problem, right? The things that they need, whether it's I need income to last a lifetime, adjusted for inflation. If somebody says that to you, they're either ahead of the game or you have the best client ever. But maybe it's, I need to determine how much risk I'm taking in my portfolio. I know that I lost a bunch of money here. Whatever they tell you, it's really a way for them to tell you how they want to fix their problem. It gives you a head start. And then I always ask them to dig down a little bit deeper. Could you tell me a little bit more? Could you be a little bit more specific about what that means? Hey, I lost this much money in 2008 and I'm scared I'm going to do it again, right? Those types of things. We're trying to drill down to an emotion that we can lean on throughout the process. I'm scared I'm going to lose more money. Keeping yourself up at night's not an emotion, but I'm worried at night, and so I don't sleep. Worried about the money that we're going to have in retirement, right? Worry is an emotion. We want to find out what that breakthrough emotion is, and this is the way you do that. Number 4 here, how long have those concerns been going on for? Let's determine whether or not this person has been living with the same thing, because if they can live with it for a long time, they may continue to, and they may not make that decision. If they haven't been living with it for a long time and they're here to make a change right away, you might know you have a very motivated client. So we're trying to determine motivation here. Number 5, what steps have you taken or tried to take to address this? What have you done with your current advisor or by yourself to address this? And so we need to know what they've done already, so that we don't just throw something the same on the table to them and they say it doesn't work, or they're not liking it. So we get that information from them. And then we want to know how those steps have worked out. If they worked out well, if they worked out not so well. Let's fix what's not broken, right? So if something's working, they can continue to do what's working. The things that aren't working well, we can make another suggestion for them. Okay, what do you think this has cost you? Time, money, energy, stress, right? Not everybody can answer this question from a money perspective, but if they're worried about money, or if they lost money in 2008, how much money was it? That's a big deal, right? Or how much stress has all of this cost them? They feel like they're losing, time with their family and things because they're worried about money. Those are the types of things that we want to break through, right? We want to ask that question here. And number 8, if I could highlight it, I would. I didn't on this, but how is all this affecting you personally or making you feel? Right? This is the emotion that we're trying to get to. Whatever emotion they tell you, how are these concerns? I'm scared. I'm worried. Angry. I'm angry that I lost money, or that an advisor didn't do the right thing for me. Whatever that emotion is, right? We're going to lean back on that as we start to create solutions for these clients. Have you ever just considered leaving things the way that they are, or continue with the status quo, I'd say? And if they are, why don't they? Right? If they're okay just leaving things the way that they are, why don't they do that? Right? There's a reason. We want to make sure we're getting them motivated to make a change. Saying, if they could leave it alone and they tell you that they could, well, I could, then why don't you? Right? Then you don't need to be meeting with me to do that. That's easy. Just leave it alone. We don't want to waste our time for someone that's going to leave it at the status quo. When did you want to address or fix all this? How fast do you want to operate? Right? We don't want procrastinators, and that's a big landmine. Procrastination is a big deal. Now, if you've been on the phone before and talked sales, you've heard my spiel on the other advisor, but if you haven't, this is kind of how it goes. We want to find out who manages their money today. Instead, it's number 11 here. And this is the next landmine. The other advisor is a huge landmine that can blow up on you in the sales process. So let's figure out who that is. And the answer might be Jim from Edward Jones, or my brother Steve, who's a CPA or something. Okay, great. I've heard a lot of great things about Edward Jones. Obviously, they're huge. They didn't get to where they are by being bad at what they do. So, it's a good company. How long have you been working with Jim over there? That's number 12. Hey, I've been working with Jim for 15 years. He was my guy after I retired, or he was the guy that they recommended that I go visit with. Oh, so you have a great relationship with him. 15 years is a long time. It's a great relationship. You guys should be very proud of that. You brought up some things to me and these concerns and these interests that you have. When you brought those up to Jim, he gave you a fix-it plan, or a plan, that had recommendations on how to address all those pieces. Did you happen to bring that with you so that we could look at it? A guy that you've been with for 15 years has obviously been a good guy. I'm sure he did a great job with that. Could I take a look at it? Now, they're going to look at you all cross-eyed, and they're going to say, well, we don't have that, right? Nobody has it. I can tell you, I can count on 2 hands maybe the number of people that have brought a plan. Now, back up a second here. If they don't have an advisor, if somebody says to you, I don't have an advisor, then they're their own advisor. So then you're going to address all these same questions as if they were their advisor. So how long have you been doing this by yourself, right? When you brought these concerns up to yourself, and you said, self, we're going to fix some of these things, and here's how we're going to do it. Did you bring a plan that you built yourself? Same thing as if you had an advisor, right? We're just going to do it that way. Did you bring that plan with you so we can address them? Well, no, we don't have that. Well, are you sure 15 years is a long time? I forget things that I did 2 days ago. So maybe he filed it away somewhere for you. Maybe you did, and it's been, it's in a file cabinet somewhere. No, we definitely don't have that. Are you sure? Maybe you should be sitting with him instead of me, right? You'll go get that thing. I'm sure he did that for you. At this point, they're going to be selling themselves back to you, saying, no, this is why we're here, right? So then you can ask them, what's changed for you that you're now sitting with me instead of your current advisor, to get that second opinion, right? And that's a phenomenal segue into that, right? Now, I would always add this at the end, and if you want to take a note here, this is kind of my big piece. But, I always like to talk about what happens if they do move money, and I think it's important that they understand that when they do move money, that advisor is going to know that, and they're going to be upset. So I always say to them, hey, I don't even know if I can help you at this point. And we've gotten a little bit to know one another here so far, and I appreciate you being candid with me. Here's the deal. I'm be candid with you. I've helped a lot of people, and I'm sure that I can help you guys as well with some of these things, but we haven't gotten there yet. But if we do, it's going to mean that we're going to have to move money away from Jim. And when Jim finds out, because that's what happens in our business, they get notified that they're losing a client. He's going to probably be a little bit upset, and he's going to pick up the phone and call you. I hate to be that type of, I don't like to break up relationships like that. That's not how I operate my business. I just want to help people. Is that going to be okay? Do I have to worry about that for any reason? Because if I do, I don't want to be that person. And so, some people will tell you, yeah, no, it's no problem. It's my money. I can do what I want with it. Others will say, yeah, well, I play golf with this guy every Sunday and I can't leave. So you want to know that, because it's going to blow up on you in the long run. In the end way, you were going to lose that client after 3 meetings anyways. So really important. If you can get past all that stuff with green lights, meaning that you haven't gotten anybody to say, stop here, right? I can't get past one of these things, these landmine breakers. You've got somebody who's, number one, emotionally connected to making a change. Number two, willing to leave their advisor if there's a better option on the table. Last piece here, decision makers, another landmine. So 15 is our last question, decision maker question. Does anyone else participate or get involved in helping you make your financial decisions, right? A lot of times, and I'm not stereotyping by any means, but single women sometimes have, a friend or a brother or something that wants to help them make decisions. I've had men that have come in and said, my brother helps me with all these things as well, and he's my kind of guy that I trust. And so what I always say to them, should they be here with us? Because here's the thing, I can make a plan for you, and if they're not here and they weren't here to hear the details, they're going to, inevitably think that it's not their plan, it's not a good idea. And we're going to have to re-explain it to them anyways. So why don't we invite them to come? We want the decision makers in the room. I don't see any reason why we wouldn't want that. So I always bring that up. And we transition into the core financial priorities. I think it's important to have husband and wife on the same page in terms of priorities. I asked them to rank themselves on 1 being their highest priority and 5 being their lowest. And we do them separately. I actually have an advisor with me today that I work with who has an awesome set of blocks. They're carved out of wood and have each one of these priorities on top of them. And he has a set for the husband and a set for the wife. They separate them. They do them separately, and then they reveal their answers to one another at the end, make sort of a gamified approach. And it's really, really interesting to see what people's minds are at. The reason why I do this exercise is I want to make sure that we're tailoring a plan to what their goals are. And I also have you'll notice there's a column there for agreed upon. Really important to make sure husbands and wives are on the same page. Otherwise, you're going to be doing marriage counseling the entire time, and you're never going to make a plan that works for the both of them. So, for example, a husband might say, my number one concern is income. And a wife might say, my number one concern is growth. And when you ask the wife, okay, tell me a little bit more about what growth means to you, right? We're going to dig down a little bit. Be specific here for me. She's going to say to you, well, I need my assets to grow more. We don't have enough money, I don't think. We need the money to grow so that we can live off of it in retirement. In my mind, that's an income first priority, right? That to me is their concern about how much income they're going to have in retirement because they need the money to live on. And so if we can explain that to them, then we can come up with an agreed upon priority of income. And that's just really how this goes. Again, you can make a joke to say, hey, I need you guys to agree on these. This is why I talk about these things, because I only do marriage counseling on Sundays and it's pretty full. Something joke you could pull there. And then you have room for any notes that you need. Then I was just going to breeze through some of these other pages. This is where the data collection comes in. This is just cash flow. So Social Security, so you can get that information, their salaries, their pensions if they have them, any other income like rentals, trusts, all that stuff that you can maybe get money from. And then budgeted expenses, cash flow, all that kind of stuff allows us to kind of get an idea where we're at for income gaps and things like that. Additional cash flow, current expenses. Do you need anything for any specific special purchases in the future? Good to know that. So when we're planning for them, we can account for them. And then we talk about inflation a little bit. So what steps have you taken to plan for increase in income offset inflation? How about a Social Security timing report? Has anybody ever run one for you, and have you used that and implemented that into what you're doing today? Just another little hook. And then again, I always put these little snippets in here in terms of emotion. Is income a cause of worry or stress for you in the future or now? really important to know that. I just like to stab those things in there because, again, I'm trying to get to the emotional connection to make a change. And then I put a little example of what inflation costs look like. Here's an idea of today you're living on 75,000. In 30 years, you're going to be 195. And that's at 3.24% based on inflationdata.com. A little bit, these are some older numbers, but still works well for our case scenario here. Just a really cool chart so that you can show people where they might be and why it's important to plan for it. All right, now here I've got our product allocation. This is allowing me to get a snapshot of where their assets are. If you have statements from the client, you can ask them for them here, and you can go through and show them where their principal guaranteed and their non-principal guaranteed money falls. If they don't have their statements for any reason, they didn't bring them with, and they can tell you where they're at, this is an option for you to talk about where money can be and have the fiduciary conversation. Again, if I could, I would use red and green money here. And for you, we might want to design one that is, if you want that. I do this because some compliance departments say that they don't like red and green because red means bad and green means good. They don't like that. So I've used blue and orange here just for the sake of compliance. And so we talk about these things on the left, or the blue of things. That's money that you cannot lose via market fluctuations. On the right, it's money that's at risk. Doesn't mean bad, doesn't mean good. It just means guaranteed and non-guaranteed. We give them all their numbers. They give it to us. We talk about where they're at, show them where they're at percentage-wise in terms of their whole entire portfolio. Show them that. And then we talk about tax considerations. So I just want to talk a little bit about non-qualified, qualified. This gives me an opportunity to talk about tax roads. I say, hey, we move ourselves from left to right on these columns here at the top. We move from the least tax efficient to the most tax efficient. Now I've made a fourth column for what I call specially designed life insurance. It technically could be qualified tax-free. We could have a tax-free bucket and they could all kind of be in there. I think it's very cool to have that extra little column in there just to open up the conversation about specially designed life insurance for tax-free income. So just leave that in there as a little kind of hook. And then I have all these important tax questions here at the bottom, tax brackets, RMD considerations, Social Security taxes, all that kind of stuff, just to get some idea of what they've done in the planning process thus far. Now, some people use this, some people don't. I happen to like this in a meeting process. This is the rule of 100 conversation. Not everybody follows the rule of 100. I understand that. You could skip this page. You could leave it out. You could do whatever. But I take this. We call it the risk ratio rule of thumb because I don't want to call it the rule of 100. But the rule is, it's not my rule. That's what I tell the clients. This is not my rule. This is just a rule that has been kind of developed over years in the industry. 100 minus your age will tell us how much money you should have in the market or in these non-principal guaranteed assets. So if you're 65 today, 100 minus 65 is 35. We need 35% of our assets in non-principal guaranteed, or red money, orange money here. And then the remaining portion, the 65%, should be put in something that's principally guaranteed. That is just the way that we think that a good foundational plan has been structured. Now, that all depends on some of these key factors when assessing your risk level, but here's what we do. A lot of times what you're going to find, somebody has $1 million, 800,000 of that money is in the market, 200,000 either in cash or cash equivalents or things like that, maybe annuities if they have one, but they'll be there. What you'll show them here is, look at this. You're living on a point, right? A little bit upside down from the thinking that the rule says you should be living under. Now, based on the rule says 35% of your money should be in the market. That's 350,000. And 650 should be in this box here, or the blue box. And you'll notice that helps you live on a more solid footing. Now, that reallocation number is the difference. So if I had 200 here today, and it's 650 here, I move $450,000 of your money around. And from red to green or orange to blue, from non-principal guaranteed to principal guaranteed. Now that gives us an idea, be able to show them, hey, just on the surface without doing anything in terms of planning, the idea is even if we just moved that amount of money, we would be in better shape, and we can show them the details later on, but this eliminates some sticker shock in the future about moving money. Again, here are all those key factors in determining risk. Really important that we can just kind of go through some of those in case somebody's got all those things set up. Maybe they are more able to take risk. Now, here's a basic risk assessment. You can use anything that you have for your RA. If you're a foundations user, you can use, Riskalyze or the foundation's risk assessment. But this to me just gives us an opportunity. What's our growth goal for our different types of money, and how much are we willing to risk? And the reasons for wanting those types of money. So we can make those check marks. Pretty easy. This would be your assets and liabilities checklist for really detailed clients. For the most part, I usually skip this page. We just use the snapshot, but for really detailed clients, you may want to get some additional information. This allows you to take that. Also, real estate and business and net worth. If you want to get some of their real estate with their houses and their lake houses, and if they have any business interests and everything else, we can talk about their total net worth. Long-term care. The question I ask when I get to this page is, are you like everybody else that I talk to, and even myself, when you were offered this type of insurance, you sort of passed it up, I'm assuming, right? Or do you have it? And if they do, let's talk about, those different pieces, and let's write it down so that we know what we're dealing with. Life insurance, this is all about, do you have policies? How recently have they been reviewed? Let's review your results. And let's talk about the policies that you have, and we'll write them down. Maybe there's some other opportunity for us. Legal documents, estate planning. Do they have a will? Do they have a trust? Do they have powers of attorneys? These are additional value adds that you can bring to a client by having an association with an attorney, or maybe you have one on staff, but just different things that we can write down as goals and stuff that we can help them with. Right now, here what I've got is a list of discovered goals. As I've gone through the process, I've written down all the different things. Well, we need an income plan that's adjusted for inflation. We need a Social Security timing report. They don't have that. We need to review their taxes, right, and their situation in terms of taxable income. We need to talk about life insurance and long-term care. We need to do estate planning. We need to do, whatever else you can determine in this process, right? The more goals you have here, the better client they are for you. So if you show all these different things, hey, look, we've got a list of things that we can accomplish together that need improvement in your plan, right? You're a 6 out of 10, which is great. If we were able to make some of these things, more solid in your plan, would it help you feel less stressed, more confident, happier, in charge, empowered? Would it alleviate the worry and the anger and the stress, whatever it is that their emotion was, in getting and feeling better about their financial situation? It looks to me like you would be a great client to work with, my friend, and I think a second meeting is a great idea for us. What do you guys think? Right? If they say yes, and we've gotten through all the green lights and nobody has stopped us along the way, we've got ourselves a pretty good meeting. Now we've got statements, we've got their assets, we've got everything that we need to start creating a design, or have our CFP planning team, if you work with foundations, do a plan for them, or whatever planning software that you have. You got everything that you need here. I have a signature slide down here just in case, for compliance purposes, you want to keep this on file and show that they've gone through it with you. Have them sign it so that they know that they gave you all that information. Again, that helps you, keep CYA in my politically correct term there, and allows you to sign it as well, keep it in their file. So just a quick first meeting. I think that'll take an hour. Obviously, I've gone through it with you pretty quickly here in the last 20, 30 minutes here. But if you take your time, answer all these questions, that'll eat up an hour easily. And then will really allow you to sort of get to the bottom of the emotion, which is most important in the process. Once you get into your second appointment, for the most part, if you get people to move from a first meeting to a second meeting utilizing this process, your closing ratio will go up because you diffuse the things that will happen to you in the future. All the reasons why people don't buy from you are the things that we bring up in this first appointment. And if there's others, bring those things out. What I talk about is just bring those landmines out on the table, diffuse them ahead of time. Here's what happens. Let them know what happens, what's going to happen, so that they're not surprised and they know what their answer is. Clear yeses, clear nos, their advisor, their emotion, everything that we can do here, we've talked about them. I think this will make your meeting process way more solid. So if you have any questions on this, happy to run you through it live again on the phone. Happy to send this to anybody that wants to use it. Again, it's something, I don't know, we can maybe get our team to brand it or things like that. This is just something that I'm bringing to the table. Again, it's not a Magellan tool, but something that I'm hoping that advisors will enjoy using that work with me. So if you have any questions, again, reach out, give me a call, shoot me an email. Really appreciate all of your guys' business and your trust and your and everything that goes along with being a partner with Magellan and myself. So thank you very much. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Thanks very much.